This is all stuff we're supposed to do before we clack the whacker.
Yep.
Wait a minute. Whack the...
No, let's not go there.
I get it wrong all the time. Sorry, Mom. Okay. Here we are. Welcome back to the Regular Dad. We are joined again by the Regular Granddad.
Yeah.
And there could not really be a more stereotypical bastion of grandpadism.
You're saying I'm old.
No.
Well, but
because you were a grandfather in your 50s. So
I was in my 40s actually.
Were you? Okay,
Yeah.
40s. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So no, not by any stretch, but there's just a whole
I've
other.
earned all this.
Well, yeah,
I've earned it.
That's true. I've helped you earn a lot of that actually, even if it weren't already in place. But the cool thing about that, the grandfather, the regular granddad, kind of vibe is that you're kind of on like the second pass. It's like the first kid, second kid, third kid. Okay, yeah. Mm-hmm. But now you've watched, in the age, and you can loop back through. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, you do see things a little differently.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You've had I'll put it this way. You've had the opportunity to learn from your mistakes.
Okay. Well, hey,
as well as your successes. You get a second run.
Well, I like that. Today we're going to be talking about anxiety is not God. We're not saying that it's not of God, which it's not, but it's not. We don't serve the lack of anxiety. That's not what we're seeking. But we do have a proclivity to avoid things and maybe perhaps hide behind the fact and saying, oh, God doesn't want us to be anxious about anything. And if I'm anxious about this, maybe I should avoid it. Okay, well, yeah, I don't know how was Peter when he asked to walk on the water. Was he just cool as a cucumber? Or was there a little bit maybe going on?
May have been some sweating going on.
Right, and so there is a healthy kind of alertness, a certain level perhaps of anxiety, not trying to cast anxiety in a bad light because it's a real thing, and we'll get to some of that I've been having go on. But that what we're going to focus in on is making sure that we don't use anxiety as an excuse to not pursue an area that the Lord might be trying to bring us into. Mm-hmm. I know with me, and of course, and I've talked about it on our podcast on the Divergent Sins. I've talked about it on this. I've recently had nose surgery. Okay, 1 of 5 procedures, which is a whole other kettle of fish. We'll get into it some other time when I'm ready to discuss it. But I have to go back for surgery again. All right, and so here's the great thing: I get all the anxiety that I had around round 1 with surgery. I get to go through that again, and now I have this thing. This was just because of the swelling from surgery and different things. I can't smell. Now, I couldn't smell great before we started. Now I can't smell at all. Well, I like to be able to smell.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I'm a good cook. I didn't get this way being a bad cook. Okay? I like to smell my little puppy dogs. Okay? All right? I like to smell when my wife gets ready in the morning. Like one of the last things that she does, and she kind of has this movement that she does to get perfume cascaded evenly around her. But anyway,
the spritz in the air.
Yeah. Very different than my approach. But I can go into the bathroom, and then I'm an hour after she's left, and I can I can smell it. Okay.
Yeah.
Right now I can't smell if I stink, and I'm relying off y'all to tell me. If
we'll tell you.
Thank you. All right, and I appreciate that. Please be gentle and understand that it's not intentional. So I'm carrying some of that, but I know that what am I going to do? Not have the surgery, because I have like an issue going on. So I've got to take those steps because that's what's good for me in this scenario.
Yeah. Here's the thing that your wife and I actually were talking about this recently.
Was this behind my back while I was comatose?
You were in surgery, yes, but we weren't talking about you. We were talking about the topic, though, of anxiety.
Okay.
And the mixing of being at peace, the peace of God, peace with God, that sort of stuff. But we were talking about, and she used the phrase, and I think she was quoting someone else, but she used the phrase future tripping. And it's from the Shack, I think. He uses that term. But
Paul Young, is that the author of the Shack?
Don't know.
Jimmy, why are you here if you can't provide some type of support?
It's been a long time.
Hey, you're making me anxious. Calm
Sorry.
down.
Okay, my bad.
Anyway,
Whoops.
here's the reality. Let's just get real about anxiety for a second. All right, everybody has it.
Yeah.
It's a part of our human makeup. That anxiousness that we can feel when things are uncertain, when things are unclear, or there are high stakes involved, or whatever.
Yep.
God made us. He knows our physiology and our psychology.
I'd like to have a couple of words with him about that.
Yeah, well, the most often misquoted scripture, or not misinterpreted, is what I should say.
Okay.
Scripture is the one in Philippians that says, "Don't worry about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, make your requests known." What we hear in that is anxiety is a sin.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Well, here's the reality. That scripture is more about what to do when we face anxiety than not saying that we shouldn't have it. All right. So maybe that's an important clarification. If you get anxious, congratulations, you're a human being. The reality, though, the idea of future tripping was intriguing to me because when we talk about God's grace being sufficient, when we talk about the peace of God to calm our hearts and settle us, that's in the moment, not in the future. Here's the thing. So we compound anxiety by looking out at things that have not yet happened and treating them as though they are happening now.
Yeah,
right.
I've got
that's where the snowball effect can come. In that, I've got some travel coming up.
Yep.
Got some things I'm going to be doing. I could easily be future tripping into that right now and letting it shape my day of what's ahead of me. But there's no grace for that.
Right.
There's grace for this, for what's happening today. And he's with us in the moment. So that's an important distinction as well. And so Dina and I had this conversation, which I always enjoy conversations with your wife. She's very sharp and intelligent.
She's a smart one.
Challenges me. And so I really like it. But it's one of those things, when we talk about anxiety, let's be real. Everybody has anxiety. Now, to different degrees, perhaps.
Yeah.
That is based on some of the things we're talking about now. Anxiety can snowball on you.
Yes.
And then you begin to act in the moment as if what could happen in the future has already occurred.
Right.
That is. I think that happens to a lot of us. That happens to a lot of people. It's a tendency. I find myself reminding myself, don't do that.
Right.
That's not helpful. It doesn't mean that there aren't reasons for that to make me feel anxious, but
right.
I can't live in the future. I have to live now.
Correct.
So understanding that reality is helpful.
Sure.
I think Jesus said, "Hey, don't worry about tomorrow. Today's evils are enough."
Yeah.
For today.
We get caught up with counting the cost and a little healthy anticipation, and then it's a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and then we lose sight of the now and focus on the next.
Yes.
And we don't. We can't do anything about. We hadn't even got through the now.
Well, here's the thing, Ben. Have you ever worried about something that didn't happen?
Me?
Yeah.
You know the answer to that.
Well, I think we
all
have.
Is that the most rhetorical question that's ever been asked?
Here's the thing, though. Did your amount of worry cause it not to happen?
Not one bit.
No, you didn't worry it away.
No.
Right? I'm worried about this. I'm just worry it away.
Absolutely.
Let's do that. No.
I've tried.
But here is the thing. We have control over some things. We don't have control over other things.
Yep.
One of the things we do have control over, we don't always exercise, is where we let our minds go. It's what paths we allow our brain to take us down. Random thoughts, we don't have a lot of control over that. Random thoughts can come from anywhere. It's the thoughts that we choose to focus and dwell on that are taking us somewhere. So we need to think about that for a moment and just say, where are these thoughts taking me?
Yep.
Are these helping me? Now, the concept of the peace of God, it does several things. It calms us, but it's not necessarily removing the circumstance.
Right.
But it brings some calm into my circumstance. Yeah. The peace of God, it will help me govern my thoughts and regulate my emotions, right? Because my thoughts and my emotions, when they kick in, amp up anxiety. They just send it straight up. But what the peace of God does is it helps me govern those things in the moment, right?
Right.
So it doesn't mean that that's not something to be anxious about, or I may have some anxiety about it, but what do I do when I recognize that I'm anxious?
Yep.
That's when I want to search for the peace of God. Now, you mentioned another element of this, that some people, like, I don't feel at peace, so I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, we throw that phrase around a lot in church circles, right?
That was how I navigated
the
the 90s. The late 90s.
I've told people for years that Deborah and I do, when we're making big decisions or whatever, we're looking for that sense of the peace of God. That does not mean that the stakes of the decision change.
Right.
Or the anxiousness about hope we're making the right decision. That doesn't go away.
No.
The peace of God comes in to help us govern our thoughts and regulate our emotions so that we can confidently move in a direction.
It's not peace outside of the storm or away from the storm. It's peace inside of the storm.
Absolutely. Because anxiety is a human thing.
Yeah.
And anyone who tells you
human.
They don't get anxious is lying. That's
Jimmy's raising his hand, and I
see you, Jimmy.
Both
I see that hand
raised on the inside.
Ask your question.
So can you feel anxiety and experience the peace of God at the same time?
Can you feel anxiety and experience the peace of God at
Absolutely
the same time?
you can. Yeah, absolutely you can.
I'm glad you said yes, because I was going to, and I'm like, I hope so.
The result, here's the thing, though. The peace of God is not something that removes the stakes of a situation, right? So the stakes of your situation can still produce some levels of anxiety, but the peace of God helps you govern your thoughts and regulate your emotions. It helps you know it's going to be okay, right? It's going to be okay. I'm with you. You're not alone. I'm with you in this. That's the element of the peace of God. I have known people who avoid hard things because they're feeling anxious, and because they're feeling anxious, they think God can't possibly be a part of that. Right? So
I like it.
That happens to people. That's a bit of
too far.
It's a bit of self-deception there. I'm not going to ever do anything that I feel anxious about. Seriously?
Right. Yep.
So you're never going to try anything new? You're never going to grow? So you're telling me you're never going to allow yourself to be promoted to a higher level of responsibility in an organization? Are you telling me that you're now going to resist all those things because some emotion and some thought processes are getting in your way? Well, it happens all the time. Happens all the time. But here's the thing. There's no finish line. We got to keep growing and going. But I used to tell people this about transitions, like transitional seasons. I think the word transition has gotten a bad rap in the sense of, if you want to cause pucker factor to go up in the office, walk in and say, hey, we're about to go through a season of transition.
Well,
and watch everybody light up in the room.
People be puckered up so tight, only dogs can hear them fart.
The pucker factor is going to go up. Here's the thing. But here's the reality.
Sorry, Mom.
Without transitional seasons, we don't grow, we don't learn, we don't improve. And so we basically settle for the status quo and say, this is where I'm at and I'm not going any further. And that's not a healthy way to live life. I used to say, in the Marvel universe, if we had a Thanos moment and the snap of a finger could make all transitional seasons go away. Simultaneously, all opportunities for growth, improvement, and promotion go away with it.
True.
Right? So anxiety is a part of life. It is not whether or not we can live anxiety-free. It's, do we know how to deal with anxiety when it occurs? That's really more about what this is. And that scripture that gets misinterpreted a lot as a, don't do that. As a, you have anxiety, you're bad. You have anxiety, that's wrong. No, it's there to tell you what to do when you inevitably experience anxiety.
Right.
Because we're going to. We're going to. But Jesus also said this, really interesting. He said, how many of you, by worrying about something, can add 1 cubit to your stature? Right? Yeah. If you're short, no amount of worrying about it is going to make you taller.
Right.
I mean, that's in essence the sense of humor of Jesus, right? So he's that's what he's throwing out there.
Right.
And in that sense, he's saying that anxiety left unchecked, let to run, has no benefit. Now, on the other hand, anxiety, when properly regulated and controlled in our thought processes, allowing the peace of God to come in, that shifts a little bit. It goes from being, it moves from anxiety to almost, I'm excited to see what this happens, what's about to happen. because the emotions
Oh,
and the
that's
feelings.
how Dina lives.
That's how they're very similar.
Oh,
they're very
gosh.
similar experiences. And so I've chosen to interpret some of those things as I don't know what's going to happen. I could be anxious about it, but I'm really I'm excited to see how this plays out now.
She makes it look
let's
so
see what's
easy.
going to happen.
Golly.
But it's something we grow into. It's not again, we talk about this sometimes. It's not a flip of a switch. It's
Sure.
This is a growth process that we have to unlearn some things before we learn some things. Is that true?
This is what I've heard.
It's one of those topics when you go talking about anxiety, especially in the faith community, the church community. I think we've done a great disservice to people because we have, whether intentionally or unintentionally, shamed them from getting help with their anxiousness, right? and you know what? Get help with it. It's when it gets out of check, you will not function properly. You're going to make poor decisions. All of those things. So the distinction between can I be anxious and be a good Christian?
Right.
Yes. It's what you do with your anxiety. It's what do you allow that anxiety to drive you to? Does it drive you to your relationship with the Lord, seeking peace that will help you govern your thoughts and regulate your emotions in whatever the stakes of the moment are? Or does it cause you to shut down, become paralyzed, not be able to make a decision,
right,
or just live in misery and making those around you miserable as well? So anxiety is a human experience. If you're a human being living in this world, you're going to experience anxiety. I get anxious every time I get on the loop here in Longview.
Yeah, well,
and I'm not worried about me. It's all these other people out there, right? So I know I'm a good driver. I just don't know what these people are going to do.
Neither do they.
And so I've had my CDL for years, and so I don't look 2 cars ahead. I'm looking 15 cars ahead. That's how you train your brain when you're driving a commercial vehicle, because you can't stop.
Which is not future tripping.
No.
Because it's only 15 cars. It's not 15 months.
No, that's correct.
Or years.
It's 15 cars in this moment that I'm looking at. So that's important clarification. Jimmy's laughing at us behind the camera. But nonetheless, we're about to go off the rails here. But the reality is anxiety is a human experience. It's what do you do when anxiety occurs that is more important. We can go off into all of this, that, and the other. They're just rabbit trails that could be chased. But let's just be real. If you're a human being, you will experience anxiety. What it does to you and where it leads you is the important thing to talk about. That's the important thing. And when we talk about as believers, as members of the faith community, Christians, we don't need to be in denial if we're anxious. What we need to do is seek the peace of God, not to remove the stakes of the moment. I think that's an important distinction.
Right,
Does that make sense, Jimmy?
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're not saying the peace of God is now going to remove the stakes.
Yeah.
It's just an awareness that I'm not in this by myself. He's with me, and I can govern my thoughts, and I can regulate my emotions with that reality so that I can navigate through this and still see a desired outcome.
That's good. The peace of God is not an escape; it's a navigation.
Yep. And it's also an invitation that because Paul said, "Let the peace of God rule in your heart," and what he means by that word literally means let the peace of God govern. Let it umpire. Let it be the umpire in the game of your life. Let that set the rules and the boundaries for you in the sense of staying in a healthy mode.
I feel like we should be queuing up just as I am right now.
Can we pass the plate?
Yeah.
Can we do that?
Hey, we should.
We should pass
We need
the
like
plate.
a QR code.
Yeah, I need more shirts.
Put it on the.
I need more shirts if we're going
Right.
to keep doing this.
I'm saying, you don't need more black shirts. You're like
Everyone.
Steve Jobs.
Excuse me. Everyone needs more black shirts.
Okay, well, you're consistent.
It's a good look.
Hey, it's the illusion of thinness.
So, there. God bless. All right, so that was.
Am I making you anxious?
Well,
Are you concerned?
I'm not. Well, a little.
Are you unprepared for this moment?
It was. I didn't know it was going to go here, but I'm. I'm okay right now. I mean, right now.
Hey,
So.
I'm just a regular granddad.
Absolutely.
I'm here to instigate.
And I sound like a regular granddad or John Dutton from Yellowstone. I don't know, but that's wearing off. But, dear gosh. All right. Well.
Do you feel like we covered this topic?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Do you feel like it's been helpful for anybody who might be listening to this or watching?
Yeah.
Jimmy, do you?
It's been helpful.
Yeah.
From the person who submitted the question, he is.
Oh, well, good deal.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, if
We don't know what we're doing here.
no, and we don't pretend to either.
Just like a lot of people on YouTube that I follow, they say, hey, don't look to me to learn nothing.
Right. No.
I'm just telling you what I'm experiencing.
Yeah. Well, this is to share the insanity, so we don't have to keep it bottled up. Come on. All right.
Well, thanks for having me, Ben.
Absolutely. Well, we're glad that you could be with us again. There might be another one in the can there somewhere, so we're going to keep looking and see what that leads to. Our social media profile for the week, something to check out. Look, Tim Ross. He has
What's it called?
it's called Upset the Gram.
Upset the Gram. That's him.
And it's,
Tim Ross.
It's great. And so
Love you, Tim.
Absolutely. I've only had the privilege to meet him just a couple of times, but I didn't get to work around him or anything. I know y'all have a lot of interaction, but
The man can raise his voice to a dog-only audible pitch
he's
quicker and faster than anybody I know.
he's great.
Meant entirely as a compliment.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. But just he will say stuff that you think, well, you're kind of one of them pastor people. You can't say that.
Yeah.
Like,
But he sure can.
He will just absolutely say it. He doesn't care, and hence the name Upset the Gram. And I love it because he just jumps in on stuff. And
No topic is off limits.
No.
it's true.
He's braver than I am. A lot lower anxiety.
Yeah.
So
If you are squeamish and easily offended, may not be the
not
podcast for
your
you.
page. But God love him. So anyway, all right.
Or might make you anxious.
It might make you anxious. So listen to him and then listen to this one again. There you go. All right. Thank y'all very much. We'll see you here next time on the Regular Dad.
See ya.